Spotlight on other media creators, upcoming board games, and reasons why your 5th edition D&D high-level campaigns are getting stale. It must be the first Monday show for April. Come on back after the break. Hey everybody, welcome to the show, Board Game Reviews. This is a tabletop gaming hobby YouTube channel dedicated all to the tabletop gaming hobby, and this is the first Monday show for April 2021. Now the first Monday show is a little bit late this month because, hey, it's allergy season, and I'm hoping right now I don't sound as bad as I think I do. At least not as bad as I sounded the other day when I was supposed to be recording this because, well, allergy season is always extra fun. If I end up sounding bad, I'll probably just end up re-recording this, or if you see some weird edits, blame allergies because I'm probably sneezing somewhere off the camera here. But the first Monday show is basically a variety show where I get to talk about various different topics that I find of interest, and I think you might find of interest also. I'm going to cover board games, going to cover tabletop games, may even throw in some RPG content or things that I think you might be interested in checking out. What I want to do with this first Monday show this time, though, is actually I want to do a spotlight on other media creators. We have a very interesting tabletop gaming hobby here with lots of great media content creators out there. But it does seem like we kind of get pigeonholed when it comes to media tabletop content creators, and you see a tendency for a lot of the same channels that get recommended over and over and over again. And I think this is a disservice to a lot of fantastic media creators who are out there creating some fantastic content who just don't get as much recognition as I definitely think they should get. So we're going to do a little bit of focus on a couple of really cool media content creator channels over here on YouTube. After cover a couple of those different channels I want to talk about. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about some upcoming games from there's the allergies right there, I can't even talk today, from Thames and Cosmos. Now Thames and Cosmos is a fantastic publisher that I really appreciate. They create some of my favorite games. Matter of fact, they have a couple of games, my top 51 games of all times, are brought out just by Cosmos. So they're very nice enough to send me a press release because I asked them about some of the upcoming games that they have coming out. So they sent me a really nice press release. I just want to cover some of those games. Obviously, I'm not going to cover all of them because, you know, there's some games that my channel and my viewers really like to focus on. There's some games that really aren't the kind of content my channel does. But for the channel content that I know you're all looking for, there's some games I really want to talk about. One of them is going to be Robin Hood, which is something I know a lot of us are really looking forward to. It's from the same designer of Legends of Andor, a designer who has a fantastic pedigree, designing some fantastic games and doing some awesome artwork all along at the same time. Finally, I want to go ahead and cover ways that you can help improve your 5th edition high-level campaigns. Now, one of the biggest complaints I see when it comes to 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons is that high-level campaigns get boring. Why do they get boring? I'm going to cover some reasons why they get boring, how to stop them from becoming boring, whether it's just using the rules as written, maybe giving you a couple suggestions of ways that you can modify the way you're playing, or even through a couple different campaign ideas that you just how to elevate your high-level campaigns. It's kind of funny, but how to bring some interest and some excitement back to the high-level D&D games. Let's go and start with the content creators I want to talk about. First up, let's go ahead and look at the channel Brew and Board. Now, Brew and Board is a newer channel. It's only been out for a couple months. They do have about a half dozen. Actually, I think they're probably getting close to a dozen videos out right now. But this is a media content creator who talks about the board game hobby, and they talk about different things such as Kickstarters and different games. They look at different aspects. They do quick overviews and reviews of games. Now, this channel is a little bit newer. They don't have a lot of subscribers, but the content that the guy is putting out looks really darn good. He's easy to listen to. He does a really good job of overviewing the games. He talks about the games in a very good style. He does a very complete overview of a lot of the games. And I think the reason why this guy doesn't have a lot of subscribers is it's actually kind of hard to find his channel. Unfortunately, if you go to YouTube and you type in Brew and Board, you're going to get thousands upon thousands of hits for everything except for this person's channel. So it's kind of unfortunate. Matter of fact, the first thing I think you see is some lady sitting in a drive-thru at McDonald's, which makes absolutely no sense to me. It's the top hit when you type in Brew and Board. Anyways, that's how YouTube analytics work. It's just a really crazy thing. But Brew and Board is somebody who's bringing out some really good content. It's nice and clean. There's some nice angles. He covers the games in a very fantastic way. And it's just a channel that I think if you haven't checked it out, you need to go look at it. Now, since it is a little bit harder to find, and matter of fact, the only way I can find is by going through my YouTube history, because every time I try to find it, only way I can do is by pulling up subscriptions or my YouTube history. I'm going to leave a link down to his channel down in the video comments section below. So you just click that link and go right to his channel. trust me, you're going to enjoy the content because he's doing a really good job. Next up is going to be Terror Dice Games. That's Terre Dice Games, all one word. Well, Terror Dice is one word, then Games is a second word, just to be specific. And again, write down the YouTube comments. I'll leave a link to this channel. But this is a husband and a wife combo who have been putting out videos actually for a decent amount of time. They actually have some really good content. They sit down and talk about a lot of good games that are great for couples. They cover games such as Tapestry, and they go over the games. They give some quick video content about the games. Their videos are anywhere from about 10 to 20 minutes, so not super long, but they give a very quick overview. Their photography is very darn good. They have a nice intro with some really good photography for the components, and they sit there and do the typical talking head thing, where they talk about the game a little bit, then they actually go into the game plan and do a little bit of review for the game. Their content is really nice, it's very clean. And again, this is just another one of those tabletop content creators out there that I think deserve a lot more press because they're doing a really good job. They're doing a really nice amount of content down there, and I think they're a channel that you might be interested in. That's Terror Dice Games. Again, I'll leave a link right down below. Next up is going to be Leisure Games, and I'm not going to keep spelling these. Links are down below. I'll make your life easy. But Leisure Games is a content creator who's bringing out content, and he talks a lot about Kickstarter and also GameFound now, because basically Kickstarter and GameFound are the big players in the field when it comes to the board game industry, especially for the concept of pre-ordering all these games. And I know I just said pre-order when it comes to Kickstarter. I'm not going to start a debate about whether Kickstarter is a pre-order engine or not. We know that's not, but it's easiest to say it. And you know what I mean when I mention that about Kickstarter. But anyways, Leisure Games takes a few minutes, and he has some good content talking about future upcoming Kickstarters. He also talks about games coming out on GameFound. He kind of breaks down the actual, oh my gosh, I almost said pre-order. I know people are going to roast me if I keep saying pre-order. But he talks about the actual backing process and the backing of the games. He breaks down every one of the reward tiers, discusses how good of a value every one of the reward tiers can be, whether it be a really good value or where it can be a very bad value. He talks about all these different things and talks about how you may want to look at a certain reward tier, what the advantages that reward tier has over another one. Matter of fact, it's really good just to sit down and just watch these videos and just get a good idea about future upcoming Kickstarters. The videos are not that long, and he does a really good job of covering everything about the Kickstarter industry. And now myself, like I said, I'm not a huge backer of Kickstarter these days. I do a couple of things once in a while if something really interests me, and I think it's actually a true Kickstarter and not a pre-order. But if it's a true Kickstarter, I think that really does need the support. Yeah, I'm going to put a little money behind a project like that. But again, I don't follow Kickstarter that much, but I still do enjoy seeing the content that's coming back out for Kickstarter and for GameFound. But go ahead and check out League of Games. And finally, we're going to throw a mention out there for Mayvina, or the Game Pioneer. Now, this person is awesome, not only because she knows why Dominant Species is a fantastic game, not because she knows why Dominant Species is better than Dominant Species Marine, but basically because she is such a down-to-earth person, such a wonderful person to watch. I love watching her videos where she just sits down and talks about her board gaming group, how they just play games, and it makes me want to sit there at the table with them, because this is a group of people who just looks like they know how to take a game and have a heck of a lot of fun with the game and understand why a game is good, or maybe why a game isn't that good. It's such an enjoyable challenge. It's interesting to watch her just do the typical talking head like a lot of us content creators do. Just your typical talking head. She'll just sit there and talk for about 10 or 15 minutes. Maybe her top 10 games, maybe some games she's been playing with her friends, or maybe, like I said, just why Dominant Species is such a fantastic game. That's going to be Mayvina. That's her YouTube name, but she's basically called the Game Pioneer. Check it out. You'll be happy. Now, I want to share these media content creators because there's so many times where I go to Board Game Geek or I go to Reddit or all these other websites, and I will see the same question pop up probably on a weekly basis where they say, recommend to me a YouTube channel because I want to see some media content. And it's always the same content creators that are mentioned every single time. I think it's an injustice because we have so many fantastic content creators out there bring out some wonderful content, and they're always going unnoticed. So my goal is to bring out a monthly spotlight, because I think I'm going to keep doing this, a nice monthly spotlight for media content creators who I think you should be checking out. Next up, I want to go ahead and hit some upcoming releases that I am I'm extremely excited for some upcoming games right now. First and foremost is going to be the Silver Tower, the brand new Silver Tower board game coming up from Games Workshop. It should be coming out this Saturday. As I am recording this video, it should be coming out this Saturday, and I hope to get the models put together as quickly as possible. I hope to get things painted up, but if things take me too long, because I do have a really strong backlog of painting, if things take too long, what I plan on doing is probably just filming a video series for the game without actually miniatures painted. But I would love to get everything painted because I think it's going to look fantastic. But look forward to me bringing out a full review series for Silver Tower. Now, if you're not familiar with Silver Tower, Warhammer Quest Silver Tower has actually been, the original one came out, I think, in 2014. And basically what it is, it's a solo dungeon crawl. And this is the absolute 100% reason why I did not bother back in the new Hero Quest everybody was talking about from Hasbro last year. Because I knew this new Silver Tower board game was coming out, and I am super duper excited about this. Basically, Silver Tower is a cooperative dungeon crawl game where you're going to go through a full entire quest line. You have heroes that you can level up. You have a randomizing dungeon or preset dungeons. You have a storyline that's going to be evolving, and you have multiple different kind of dungeons that you're going to go through. And I keep saying dungeons because it's actually a city, because it's Warhammer Quest, the Cursed City. So saying dungeons is kind of silly, but you kind of get the idea of what I'm talking about when I say a dungeon. But it's basically a dungeon crawler style game where you're going to have your group of heroes. I think the game comes with 8 heroes, and you're going to start your party of 4 heroes, and your party of 4 heroes is going through this grand campaign. And the very interesting thing is there's a lot of things you got to watch for when you're playing Warhammer Quest. You have to watch out because this is basically a city that's been taken over by vampires and undead, you know, the usual end of the world gloom and doom thing that we all know from Games Workshop. But the idea is that you're trying to rescue the city. So you have a whole bunch of things you're trying to watch out for. First of all, you have to do hunt missions to locate the grand leader bad guys so you can find them and take them out. The other thing you have to do is you have these side missions where you need to worry about I keep wanting to say the morale, but I know that's not the right word. But you have to worry about the morale of the city, because the morale of the city is slowly dwindling because you have this vampire lord who's taken over the city, and the undead are walking the streets on a daily basis. So you have these side quests where you got to watch the morale of the city, plus you have to hunt down the bad guys, plus you have to do these other quests. So you're going to do this kind of evolving quest line by choosing the paths you're going to be going down. Whether it's going to be like a hunt quest, a side quest, these specialty quests, and on top of that, you actually level up your heroes. And it's not like the Dungeons and Dragons board games where you level up a hero maybe once or twice or something like that. You're going to level up your heroes up to 6 different times, and every time you level up, they're going to get different abilities. Not only that, there's actually 4, I want to call it classes, but that's not really the right word for it. But there's 4 different classes you have available for your characters. So your heroes can take a combination of their heroes with their stats, plus these different classes that you can level up. I should rephrase that, because you can only pick 1 class per hero, but they're going to level up in that class, which is going to give them additional abilities. So we have this game that goes together to create this really interesting gameplay where you have these set maps, which are really fun to go throughout the city. You have these randomizing maps, which are also really cool to go throughout these cities. And then you also have this light and day cycle that's going on. And as you move closer to night, guess what? Vampires get more powerful, undead get more powerful. It's really, really cool. So you have all these things that go together to create this really awesome campaign game. Now, I have a couple concerns about the game since I haven't played yet. Now, these are just future concerns I have. I don't know if they're going to pan out or not. My first hope is, since you have to go to level 6, I hope the game doesn't become too grindy. Now, I don't foresee it becoming too grindy. I don't foresee Games Workshop designing that kind of game. But it's one potential concern that I'm thinking about that I may want to pay attention to. The next thing I want to make sure is that it's really well balanced. I mean, we've all seen games from Games Workshop before where some heroes are better than others. So I hope they did a really good job with the balance. I know that Games Workshop has been getting a lot better as time has gone on. So I think that they're going to do really, really good here. But my final, and this is my real concern about this future coming game that's coming out this weekend here, is I enjoyed Warhammer Quest Blackstone Fortress a lot. I didn't enjoy how tedious it was to control the AI of the game. Now, the way the AI of the game for Blackstone Fortress worked is you roll a 20-sider for every single enemy miniature on the board. And it was like a card. The front of the card had all the stats, and you flip it over to see what the individual enemy AI would do. Then you flip it back over to look at the stats as it is action. Then you flip it over to roll for the next one. Flip it back over for look at the stats, and it just got really super tedious. I've heard that they've done a lot of strides to make this a lot better, and I really am hoping they did, because that's one of the things I found extremely tedious, especially after playing through multiple campaigns. I actually got to the point where I didn't even finish the final campaign. Well, I really do want to, but I didn't finish it because I just got sick of the tedium of just going roll, 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 roll. 30 rolls later off a 20-sider. Oh, it's my turn again. And it kind of got a little bit too much. So I appreciate what they did there, and I hear they've taken a lot of great steps to try to fix this, so I'm really excited to the fixes that are coming for this. But that's going to be Warhammer Quest, the Cursed City. Look for it coming to the channel really soon. Next up is going to be the game of Robinson Crusoe, which is currently on GamePound. Now, if you're not familiar with Robinson Crusoe, check out my top 51 games of all time list. Quick spoiler alert, it's in the top 10 because it is such a fantastic game. I actually think that Robinson Crusoe is the absolute best cooperative game that's ever been designed. You have so much phenomenal content, such a well-designed game, such a brutal game, but brutal in a really, really good way with lots of replay, lots of variety, lots of different scenarios that you can play, and different ways you can play the game. It's such an absolutely amazing game. You can go over right now over on the GameFound and do a complete backing for the brand new game, which is the original game. I shouldn't say brand new, that's totally the wrong words to use here. But basically, it is a deluxe edition of the game. Now, I know there are some people who are griping about the fact that they're now throwing miniatures in the box. Yes, the miniatures are raising up the price, but it's not that terrible, at least in my mind. Yeah, I don't actually think I'd ever use the miniatures. I'm kind of old school. I do actually like the wooden discs with the little stickers on, and they're nice and they're very, very clean to look at on the board. So I don't think I'd ever actually use the miniatures that are coming in the GameFound project to actually play the game, but I'm actually looking forward to painting them because I think they look really, really cool. And I know I have a couple of friends who, once I paint the miniatures, they'll be really excited to play the game with the miniatures. But basically right now you can go over on GameFound and actually back the new version of the game. They have a couple different reward tiers, which is really nice. One of the reward tiers is a veteran pledge where you get all the new content plus a box for all the old content. Or if you've never played Robinson Crusoe, or if you have and you're looking to get into the game, you can actually get the entire game right now just by backing it over there on the GameFound project. Now, I have a couple of questions about the GameFound project itself, and I've left questions in the comment section, but somehow my questions keep getting deleted. And I'm actually at the point where I just given up. I don't know if GameFound is buggy or what. It's a kind of a weird platform, but I've left multiple questions. And I've gone back and done individual searches to see if my questions ever got answered. The questions just disappeared. And I'm just done with it. GameFound is kind of wonky. It's new technology. It's going to suck for a little while. There's nothing we can do about it, but maybe they'll get it fixed. But some of the questions I have is some things like asking about why the prices on some of the expansions are at the level they're at. One of the questions I actually asked on the GameFound was, well, why would I get the expansion here when I can go over to Amazon and find it at retail prices cheaper than what's available on the project itself? I was trying to find out if those expansions actually had more content in there, and after doing research, it looks like they're not. So I don't know if this is just going to be an updated printing or if there's some surprises coming. I haven't figured that out yet. I'm hoping that means there's going to be extra surprises. Actually, I kind of hope it does mean extra surprises because I went and bought those expansions I was missing. So, okay, maybe I don't. Anyways, I'm really looking forward to it. I think Robinson Crusoe was an absolutely fantastic game. One of my only problems I ever had with Robinson Crusoe is the fact that the game does come with card decks that each have different different colored backs. So I also, and I asked this over on GameFound and never got the answer to my question because my post got deleted again. But I was asking if what they could do, since they're selling card sleeves with this new GameFound project, is if they can put out some sleeve with some fancy backs that are opaque that cover the backs of the cards. Because one of the things that I kind of don't like is how you can kind of game the system. Because the way the game works is you're going to shuffle up your stack of adventure cards, and as you do various different actions in the game, you're going to shuffle in extra adventure cards into the game. But the adventure cards you're going to shuffle in have a different colored back. So if you want to be really cheesy, you can kind of game the system and go, the green card ended up on top. Let me shuffle again. Blue card on top. Let me shuffle again. Oh, standard card. Okay, let's go and take that. Now, I know not a lot of people do that, and it's kind of a really cheesy thing to do, but I thought it'd be really, really awesome. I thought this was a fantastic opportunity for them to include some nice card sleeves with a little bit of a fancy back, something that shows Robinson Crusoe, a really nice opaque back, that you can just take the cards, slide it right in, put them on top of the adventure stack, and that way you get a surprise every time you shuffle the deck. It's one of the only minor things I was hoping they look into it. Never got an answer. Maybe it's something they're planning. I don't know. But if you're looking for one of the best cooperative games out there, that is an awesome theme, is super challenging. It's one of those games you're going to take a long time to master. A game that's going to have a heck of a lot of fun for 1 to 4 players with multiple scenarios. And it's one of those games that you're never going to get bored of. Check out Robinson Crusoe over on GameFound. Now, I just want to take a couple minutes to talk about some upcoming games from Cosmos. Number 1 on my list of games that I'm super duper excited coming up from things in Cosmos is going to be Robin Hood. Now, if you haven't been following Robin Hood and you're not familiar with Robin Hood, the game that's coming out this year, this is a cooperative game that has been designed by the exact same designer of Legends of Andor. Now, if you're not familiar with Legends of Andor, it's an absolutely fantastic cooperative adventure style game where the players are trying to save the lands of Andor from various different intruders such as dragons, different things. I'm not going to go into it. I actually cover the game in my top 51 games. If you want to learn more, go check out that video. But The same designer, Michael Menzel, who does all the artwork and all the game design, is bringing out a game called Robin Hood. And he's taken that wonderful design principles he has from Legends of Andor, and he's brought that over into the realm of Robin Hood. Now, the basic idea of Robin Hood is you are going to play Robin Hood and the Merry Men, and you're going to go through an evolving campaign-style game with some abilities for heroes to drop in and out, and some really cool things that are just really looking awesome. Now, a couple of things that are really awesome about the game is the map is no longer, well, let me preface this a little bit. If you ever played Legend of Andor, you know one of the only frustrating things about the game is the map itself, because it's numbered really, really strangely. I'm sure the designer had an idea he had when he was trying to number the board, but it's kind of bizarre. You'll have things where you go like Section 1, Section 2, Section 43, Section 7, Section 9, Section 56. I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that's kind of how it is. It's kind of bizarre, especially when you're trying to find a special space on the board. You're kind of tracing all over the board, trying to find that section of the number. Well, the interesting thing about Robin Hood is the board, there's no little sections like that with numbers on it. You actually use these little measuring sticks to measure your movement on the board. So it's kind of a cool thing, and there's multiple measuring sticks, and the more measuring sticks you use, the more of your time you're going to use. Now, if you're familiar with the time concept, you know, from Legends of Andor, it kind of has that nice idea going on right there. Not only that, the board is a multi-level board, and I'm totally using the wrong term here by using multi-level, but basically you're going to have a board, and you're going to have these pieces that you can pull in and out, and these pieces you're going to flip over or flip face down, and you're going to arrange these pieces in advance. So it kind of creates this really cool looking tapestry where you're going to explore, and you're going to come up to this little piece that you know is part of the second level of the board. Just look at the pictures. Or even better, I'll put up some really cool pictures so this all makes sense. But it's kind of cool. You're going to go up this little section, and you're going to flip over that little piece, and you're going to place it back in the board again, and it's going to tell you what's going to happen there, whether it's going to be a guard or it's going to be something you're going to find. But it really creates this really cool interactive storyline. Now, I only have one little concern about this, and that's whenever we have those kind of games where you're going to put the boards back inside, or little pieces back inside a board, I hope they're not going to start getting rubbed on the side, and they're going to start becoming so they don't fit quite that well, or they start getting damaged. That's my only concern. I hope that we're not going to do the thing. We're going to take our fingernails, we're going to try to pick those pieces out of the board, and the pieces are going to start getting torn. I hope they have a ways to figure that out. Maybe they have it cut in a special way where that doesn't happen. But so far, that's my only concern I'm looking for when it comes to the game of Robin Hood from Thames and Cosmos. Next up from Thames and Cosmos, they have a whole bunch of things that are coming out this year and a lot of really exciting games. First up on the list are going to be the Exit games. Now, I believe in the end of May or maybe early June, Cosmos is coming out with a couple more games in the Exit games lines. They actually have 3 games coming out. I think 2 of them are going to be about the 3 out of the 5 difficulty level. One of them is going to be the 2 out of the 5 difficulty level. All of them are 1 to 4 player games like the standard Exit games. So that's really great for families who are looking to play more of these Exit games. And if you're not familiar with these Exit games are nice, fairly inexpensive games where you're basically going to open up the box and you're going to go through this Exit style game, and they're a heck of a lot of fun. Now, you can't replay them a lot, which is kind of the downfall of them, so that's the great thing of them constantly bringing out more of these games. I think once these new 3 expansions come out, they may have maybe 20 or 21 of these Exit games. I guess I could have done the count, but I think there's about 20 or 21 of them. But there's 3 of them that are coming out in May that are actually really, really exciting. The first one that I got coming out is The Gate Between Worlds. Like the standard Exit games, it's going to be for 1 to 4 players. And in this one, you're going to have a game where there's an ancient map that's led you deep into a cave and through a strange gate to another world. So you kind of have this extra different world kind of Exit game, which is kind of fun. It's kind of a little bit different from the other styles, so it's kind of a fun new style game for it. The next one they have is the Cursed Labyrinth. Again, 1 to 4 players. This one I think is going to be a 2 out of a 5 on the difficulty scale for this one. And this one you're going to be touring a historic castle, and during the tour of the historic castle, you're going to discover a cursed labyrinth that you're going to have to escape from. That actually looks kind of fun. And it's kind of a neat, unique, I don't want to say unique, that's the wrong word I'm looking for, but it's kind of a cool theme to kind of go visit a castle, and then you got to escape some kind of cursed labyrinth. So it actually looks like a lot of fun. And then the final one they got coming out is Kidnapped in Fortune City, and I believe that one's going to be a level 3 out of a 5 on the difficulty scale. And that one I don't think comes out till October. Don't quote me on that one, but I think that one's going to be the final one that they have planned to come out this year. At least that's been announced. But in the Kidnapped from the Fortune City, you're basically in Fortune City criminal element has run rampant and there's going to be a kidnapping. So this one actually looks like a pretty cool theme also. So the exit games are really great little games. I enjoy the fact that they're super inexpensive. They're a wonderful amount of gameplay. You basically just open up the box and you're ready to go. So that makes them really, really fun. And I'm really looking forward to these new games in the Exit series. Now, if you enjoy the Exit games a lot, there's also 2 other Exit games that are coming out that are a little bit different style. That's why I want to talk about them in a little bit different here. But the standard Exit games usually run about $10 to $15. They have 2 other Exit games that are coming out that are going to be a little bit pricier, running about $25, but they're actually going to be jigsaw puzzles that are built in with them. I think they're about 100 piece, maybe 88 to 100 piece jigsaw puzzles that are going to be included into the Exit game itself. So it may add a little bit of variety. Now, I haven't done a whole bunch of looking into these because it's a new concept that I don't think they've actually done this before. And again, it's 2 new Exit games that are coming out. The first one is going to be the Deserted Lighthouse, and the second one is going to be the Sacred Temple. And again, these have 4 puzzles in each of them. So that's going to add a little more to the replay, a little bit more to the variety, and add a little bit of extra fun to the Exit series of games. Next up, coming from Cosmos, is a game from a designer who I have a heck of a lot of respect for, and that's the designer Martin Wallace. Now, Martin Wallace has designed a lot of great games. Matter of fact, one of his games is currently in my top 51 games of all time. It's actually really, really high up on there, and that's the game of Wildlands. Now, Martin Wallace designed some really great games, and he's got the game of Anno 1800 coming out, which is actually based on the PC game. Now, the game of Anno is basically an epic city building style strategy board game, and is completely based on the PC game itself. So he's managed to take the idea of the PC game and transport it into a board game, and it's a game I'm really, really looking forward to. The game plays for about 2 to 4 players. I think the average play time is going to be about 2, maybe 2.5 hours. But Martin Wallace, a designer who has a strong pedigree, he does a fantastic job building a lot of his games. He's really good at games that are all about economical engines. I mean, he's one of the great designers of train games. He has lots of good train games underneath his belt. Plus, he's great at designing games that have a lot of great moving parts. I mean, look at the game Wildlands. He has a game that has, I think, Wildlands like 7 different factions that all work great against each other, creating some fantastic games. So Martin Wallace has done some great designs, and I have a lot of faith that Anno 1800, based on the PC game, is going to be a heck of a lot of fun. It's a game I am really, really looking forward to. I think the game is due out again, coming out pretty soon. I believe in the end of May, and I'm hoping it does come out in the end of May, because I'm hoping to pre-order a copy, and so I can get a review of the game out on the channel, because Anno 1800 is one heck of a fun PC game. Finally, let's go in and close things out with our RPG segment, talking about why high-level Dungeons & Dragons campaigns can start to feel so darn stagnant. So before we talk about why high-level campaigns become stagnant, let's talk about why low-level campaigns feel like they're so darn fun. And one of the big reasons why the low-level campaigns feel so darn fun is because there's tension. A first-level character can pretty much be one-shotted. A 10th level character is probably never going to be one-shotted. It's very, very easy for just one brown bear to be a challenge for a group of first-level characters. Next up, we have the fact that at lower levels, your characters actually feel like they evolve a heck of a lot more. The differences between a first-level character and a third-level character is a heck of a lot better than the difference between a 9th level character and a 12th level character, where instead of just doing totally different things because you manage to unlock your characters or your character's path, one thing you're doing is another couple d6 of damage, or maybe you're moving a little bit faster, or maybe you have a +1 to your rolls. So a lot of the great, fantastic character involvement and a lot of the fun of the game happens at the low levels. You have the tension of the fact that it's very easy to die. Heck, that just one encounter with a guard can be harrowing. Traveling through the forest can be harrowing because a puma can jump out of nowhere, or maybe a pack of wargs or something very, very simple like that. And that can be a life or death encounter for the heroes. Not only that, death at lower levels can be a permanent thing. It's very, very rare for high-level characters to die, and even if they do die, well, death has really no sting, thanks to resurrection spells, reincarnation, revivify, all these different things. As long as you have enough money to throw at things, and as long as you don't have a DM who's going to follow the rules as written, death really doesn't have that much of a sting. So what I'm hoping here is to give you a couple ideas to help bring a little bit of sting back to the high-level games, using rules as written, maybe a couple creative ideas, or heck, when all else fails, go ahead and blow up your campaign world. Let's go ahead and talk about all those awesome things. So the first culprit of why your high-level campaigns are starting to feel a little bit stagnant is the big one, is the fact that death has no sting. It is very, very easy for high-level characters to stave off the fear of death, because as long as the cleric lives, as long as the cleric has enough money, there's not much of a fear for the rest of the party members, because the rest of the party members will be resurrected. Whether it happens to be a revive spell, happens to be a resurrection, a true resurrection, depending on what kind of high level campaign you're playing at, death just really loses its sting. And part of the reason why death loses its sting is kind of a little bit on the laziness of the Dungeon Master and a little bit of the, let's call it the unfortunate ability for players to sometimes glaze over the rules just a little bit. So let's go ahead and look at the actual rules for the resurrection and revive spells and just see where some of this falling apart can actually happen. So if you go ahead and look at all the ways that players can be brought back to life, let's go ahead and cover these abilities in order and explain to you ways that you can actually, using rules as written, kind of bring back in the fear of death in these higher level games, because the players sometimes are glossing over some of the most important aspects when it comes to these resurrection style spells. So the first spell we're going to look at is a spell of Revivify. Revivify has a nice bonus. It's a nice, very early level spell. You get a very, very early level, which is really, really good about the spell. Players can start using it pretty much instantly. Here's the first shortcoming of the spell that some people seem to miss. The spell has to be cast on the dead person within 1 minute of dying. The person's been dead for over a minute. Guess what? They cannot be revivified. You need higher level resurrections. So remember that when it comes to the fact of the Revivify spell. If you as a DM are trying to bring in the fear of death and making sure that people really appreciate how dangerous combat really can be, you need to understand that if the person is not revivified within 1 minute, you can't save the body at all. Next, on top of that, every single Revivify costs about 300 GP worth of diamonds. Now, the nice thing about the Revivify spell, unlike the other spell I'm about to talk about here in a minute, is 300 GP worth of diamonds, plural. Now, there was a long time ago where somebody was trying to give you a rough idea, and I forgot if it was in the 3rd edition or in the 2nd edition, but they're trying to give you a rough idea of what money would mean in modern terms to help you understand how much money you're actually throwing when you do these things. And the basic understanding is that 1 gold piece is about anywhere from 10 to maybe 20 US dollars. So to use a Revivify spell on somebody is about 300 GP gold pieces, which is about 3,000 to 6,000 gold pieces worth of multiple gems. Now, it is a lot of money, but it's not hard to find lots of small gems that may have that value. So that's not that hard of a thing. So the biggest caveat here is just making sure that you resurrect the person within 1 minute of death, which means you have to have a cleric who has access to the spell, currently has that spell memorized, and they cast it on you within 1 minute of death. Not that big of a deal, but just make sure you're understanding the rules as written means that you need to be doing that. But that also means rules as written, your cleric, your priest, actually has to have 300 gold pieces worth of diamonds on them at all times. Now, if you're having your characters running about 300 gold pieces worth of diamonds at all times, maybe they need to run in with the local thieves guild, because that's a lot of money to be walking around with at all times, and that's a wonderful little target. So without being too much of a stickler, you can be a stickler and insist that the players show on their character sheet where they have 300 gold pieces worth of diamonds written down so that Revivify spell can be performed within that 1 minute of death. The other thing to remember about the Revivify spell is that the 300 gold pieces worth of gems, they're consumed upon the casting. So that means you need to run down to your local Quickie Mart and buy another 300 gold pieces worth of diamonds. And it's kind of a fantasy world. We get that. There's lots of fantasy tropes and everything like that. But your average village and your average small town is not going to have 300 gold pieces worth of diamonds just laying around for every adventure to walk through the local gemologist store on a routine basis, buying 300 gold pieces worth of diamonds every time somebody dies. So you can control that little bit of economy, and sometimes controlling that economy can put the fear of death into the players, and putting the fear of death is something that can help make those higher level campaigns feel a little bit less stagnant, because the players are not going to feel like bulletproof superheroes who may just fall down and get right back up after they fall down thanks to the help of the local cleric. Next up is going to be the Raise Dead spell. The Raise Dead spell costs 1 full hour to cast. Try casting that in a hostile territory. Matter of fact, if you as a DM have players in a deep, deep dungeon somewhere and you're letting them go a full hour without being harassed, you're missing a wonderful, wonderful golden opportunity here. I don't think any players or any party should sit still for more than 15 minutes in a dungeon without being harassed by some random wandering creature. But that's, another way to make the game more interesting, more entertaining, especially at the higher levels, by keeping the tension really, really high. On top of that, you need to cast, every time you cast a spell in the hostile territory, you need 1 single diamond worth 500 gold pieces. So that's effectively $5,000 to $10,000 one single diamond. So basically you need to carry around a diamond about that big at all single times. Well, maybe a little bigger. Yeah, well, I'm not a gemologist. But you need to be carrying a fairly large diamond with you at all times. That is 100% consumed. So again, going back to the analogy I used for the earlier spell when I was talking about that, how many small towns and small villages keep a 500 gold piece, effectively a $5,000 to $10,000 diamond, one singular diamond laying around for a group of adventurers to walk through the door and say, yep, we think Bob's going to die in the next dungeon because Bob dies in every single dungeon. Can we buy like maybe 4 or 5 of these diamonds? We want to stock up. And all that has to happen while the local Thieves Guild is standing outside the door, ready for their next mark to go. Nope, didn't hear that at all. Didn't you hear nothing about somebody throwing down $2,000 worth of gold for a whole bunch of diamonds? Nope, not an easy mark, not at all. So that's just another way, rules as written, you can help modify this and keep the fear of death going for your party members. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and harp on all these different resurrection style spells because they actually continue to get worse. As a matter of fact, not only does the cost keep going up, even though the ability to bring people back from further and further back in time when they died, the cost goes up, and then you eventually start running additional repercussions, such as the person who's resurrected, as -4 to all their stats for the next 4 days. Well, that penalty slowly goes down, but for the next 4 days, they're going to have penalties to all of their stats. And not only that, there's also the potential for the caster of the resurrection spell to lose access to all spells for the next 24 hours until they do another long rest. So just those little things right there, you as a DM, just enforcing rules as written can help increase the tension of every single combat, help increase the tension of the higher level games, making death have the sting that death needs to have to make sure that your high level games are not becoming stagnant. Culprit number 2, why your high level campaigns are getting stagnant. Dumb NPCs. Yes, I know as a DM it is super easy just to start seeing the bad guys as a whole bunch of statistics as you're slowly just making them a speed bump on the way to the big bad guy. Stop doing this, because these encounters need to be smart, because smart encounters are the encounters your players are going to remember, not the boring encounters, which are just a bunch of hit points that are meant to take away a couple spells, make sure the big bad guy, when they run into the big bad guy, is more of an encounter. Make every single encounter matter. Let me give you an example. If you, in a fantasy setting, because this is a fantasy setting example, walk behind a building and you see 3 people. You see a guy in full plate mail and a sword. You see some guy wearing a purple robe, a pointy hat, and carrying a little stick in his hand with a glowing tip. And you see a guy standing with a dagger. Are you going to sit there and run with you and your buddies and run against the guy in full plate mail and start pounding on him with your fist? No, you're not, because it's going to be dumb. Have your NPCs also do that full mindset. Have your NPCs play smart. If they see somebody in the back lines start casting a spell, have them use a sling and just sling it at the wizards casting a spell. All it takes is 1 point of damage to force the wizard to make a concentration check. 1 failed concentration check means you manage to shut down that wizard very easily. Now, of course, it's kind of silly just to say that, well, just 1 hit. Don't have 1 hit. Have a whole bunch of low-level creatures. Just using slings can be more of a thorn in the side of the wizard than anything at all. So stop treating your NPCs like they're just a road bump or a speed bump on the way to the big bad guy. Have your encounters matter. Have every one of your encounters matter, even if it's just a simple encounter, a medium encounter, or the big encounter. Make them all memorable. Make your NPCs fight smart, because in the big bag fight, they're all going to play smart and they're all going to fight smart. So why don't you make your other fights all make the bad guys fight smart too? It's going to make everything more enjoyable. It's going to make your fights matter, and it's going to stop making your high level games feel stagnant, because everything matters. And that's what makes the higher level games feel less important, because the only thing that matters at the high level game is the big bad guy. Everything else falls to the wayside. Don't let that happen. Make everything that happens to the characters entertaining at every single time, and your high level games will be less stagnant. Culprit number 3, seeing the same bad guys over and over again. I've already mentioned this a few moments ago, but I was basically talking about where this week we're fighting the white dragon. Next week we're going to kill a green dragon. The week after that it may be a red dragon, but it's still a dragon over and over again. Helping to make this problem even worse is the fact that as you go through higher levels, Dungeons & Dragons doesn't have a lot of enemies at the higher levels. Yeah, sure, at the lower levels, there's dozens upon dozens of low-level enemies. But as you go up into the upper level of enemies, the amount and variety of enemies starts decreasing, and that also helps add to the stagnation of the higher level games, because you're basically fighting the same monsters over and over and over again. Now, I know I just said a minute ago, don't make all our enemies feel like just another stat block. Well, now I'm going to tell you, make all your big bad guys seem just like a stat block, because that's really all they are. There's really no difference between a red dragon or a kobold alchemist if you just simply look at the stats and try to create more and interesting encounters by making cool NPCs, by just reskinning them to bring out new interesting fights for all of your players. Some of the most memorable encounters can just come from reskinning things that have already existed, and they're really just totally complete inside the rules. Instead of just having the players encounter 3 ogres in the forest, why not an orc who happens to be a hunter, a grizzled old hunter who has 2 wargs that happen to be his hunting dogs, using the exact same stats for 3 ogres, so you know they're all balanced already made for a party of a certain level, because the work has already been done for you to make a complete adventure or an encounter that's at a certain level. So let's take those stats, completely reskin, and create a memorable encounter the players always going to remember. Instead of having the players attack a mighty red dragon who has their little underlings, why not a crazed kobold alchemist who has the ability through alchemist fire? That's how they're going to breathe fire. They have robes that are made of magical incantations that makes their robes more powerful. That represents a higher armor class, and the fact that they have a lot of hit points. Just doing these very simple things can make stagnant encounters that you've seen over and over again much more exciting with very, very little work on the part of the GM. You're literally just come up with a brand new skin for all the stats that have already existed, creating some much more exciting encounters, much more memorable encounters, encounters that your players are going to annoy, or encounters your players are going to enjoy, and again, minimizing the feeling of having a stagnant game. Finally, culprit number 4, and the one big way to fix everything is if you've just gone out there, you killed the big bad guy, you've done everything over and over again, and the player's just bored of everything, well, blow up the entire planet. Well, figuratively is what I mean, not literally. Sometimes it's fun to have a world where the bad guys have actually won. This completes a whole new paradigm for the players, because instead of having a world where everything's good, the heroes just go from town to town, they have people coming to their side and everything's wonderful for them, you create a brand new environment where the whole world is against them. Finding refuges of safety are few and far between, and even just one hope or one help in the night can be a wonderful something sent to give them a wonderful amount of help. Even just from the smallest little encounters are going to create memorable things, because there is a world that's against them. There's no safety in towns. There's no safety in the forest. Everything is against them, because the whole world is basically lost. It's a wonderful opposite, and it creates a wonderful environment. And actually, it can be really fun to actually shake up a campaign by doing this, because it does so many things by just taking the basic ideas and all the tropes that we're all standard used to, and it completely turns them all on their head and makes the players have to fight in a whole new world where things just become that they take for granted are all taken away from them. Doing these wonderful things can help you revitalize a campaign, a higher level campaign, and remove some stagnation and create a whole bunch of variety and bring some more fun to your high level Dungeons & Dragons campaigns. The fun thing about doing this, though, is that even the most benign, simple things can be wonderful, harrowing adventures. Just them trying to get supplies from a town can be a harrowing adventure, because they know that the bad guys have taken over. The populace of the town is not going to do anything, because they don't want to suffer the punishment of the evil overlords for the town or anything like that. So even simple things like that just creates some wonderful environments. Now, it sounds like it's actually a lot of work to blow up a town or blow up a world, so to speak, but it's actually not a lot of work, because you're basically just going to take everything from the opposite side. You're just going to reverse everything. Of course, if you don't want to do a lot of work, there's actually some great supplements out there that actually have done this for you and show you ways that you can actually do this. Matter of fact, Sandy Pearson Games has a supplement coming out pretty soon called Planet Apocalypse that actually tells you how to do this very exact thing, basically telling you how to blow up the world. And I've had the PDF for probably about 6 months now, and there's some really, really fantastic ideas in there. There's things that tells you about some new classes, some new archetypes, some new enemies, how to have a very different world where the heroes are basically have their back against the ropes and everything's very, very challenging. And it's a wonderful supplement that actually has a whole bunch of rules that you can actually read and help you make one of these worlds where basically the players have brand new challenges. Even though they're 12th, 13th, 14th, or 15th level player party, the challenges they're going to encounter in a world where everything has gone topsy-turvy just creates a whole bunch of new encounters and new events. It's a wonderful way to switch things up and add a lot of variety to your 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy this video series. If you have any comments or questions, make sure you leave them down in the YouTube comments down below. I'll be sure to get to them as quick as I can. You can also feel free to email me off the show board game reviews. That's otsbgr@gmail.com. Be sure to get your email as quick as I can. If you enjoy this video and you enjoy this content on this channel, think about supporting the channel over on Patreon. Remember, this channel is 100% self-funded, so your help over on Patreon, or even just with YouTube analytics, or sharing the channel with other viewers, letting people know about the channel, can help me greatly. If you enjoy this video, if you enjoy this video series, click that like button, click that subscribe button, and as always, thanks for watching.